We've all been there before. We feel alone. It feels like we don't have anyone and that nobody cares about us. At those times, the voice in our head gets even louder. It's hard to shut it off. So you end up believing its lies. You believe that you're not loved, you're not important, you're not enough. You don't have worth. You just want to give up. But what if instead of giving into those negative thoughts, you decided to do the opposite? What if you decided to prove those voices wrong? This is the story of someone who did just that. Inside, a lone figure sat slumped over, his head down, hiding his face in the shadows. For most, it was a sound that signaled the start of another mundane day, but for Alex, it was a call to action. He was the first one up, his eyes gleaming with purpose. At 5 a.m., while the rest of the world was lost in the embrace of sleep, he was already lacing up his shoes, ready to conquer the day. The room was dim, mirroring the emptiness he felt inside. Now, as he walked into the bustling city, he carried with him the quiet confidence of a man who had stared into the abyss of loneliness and emerged with his soul intact. Each page he turned over was a step closer to understanding himself, to deciphering the complexities of his emotions and the untapped potential that lay dormant within him. The library, with its towering shelves and hushed whispers, became his sanctuary. It was here amidst the countless stories that he found his own. Alex, however, was oblivious to the beauty around him. His eyes were locked on the screen of his laptop, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he worked late into the night. For him, the boundaries between day and night had blurred. Around him, people hurried past, their faces illuminated by the neon lights of the city. The city, once a backdrop to his despair, was now a witness to his triumph. But Alex was no longer one of them. He was no longer the lost, lonely man who had once haunted the city's dark corners. Looking back, Alex couldn't believe the transformation he'd undergone. He had rebuilt himself from the ground up, brick by painful brick. Alex took a deep breath, the cool night air filling his lungs with a sense of freedom. The loneliness that had once consumed him was now a distant memory, replaced by a quiet confidence that radiated from his core. He'd faced his fears, embraced his loneliness, and in doing so, he'd found himself. He was not the same person who had felt alone. He was someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who had emerged from the depths of solitude and had rewritten his story. And as the night deepened and the city slumbered, Alex knew that he was just getting started. His journey was a testament to the human spirit's resilience, a beacon of hope for anyone who had ever felt invisible, forgotten, or overlooked. He was living proof that even in the darkest hours, when the world seemed to offer nothing but shadows and despair, one could find the strength to rise above. He was no longer the person he used to be. He was stronger, more focused, and most importantly, he was becoming the person he was meant to be. What once felt like a curse, being alone, had become the catalyst for his evolution. It had stripped him bare, forcing him to confront his weaknesses and limitations. All that mattered was the task at hand, the project he was working on. He learned that his feelings of isolation were not a mark of weakness, but a signpost directing him towards a journey of self-discovery. There were still mountains to climb and rivers to cross. But now he was equipped with the tools he needed to navigate whatever life threw at him. As he stepped outside, the cool morning air invigorated him, fueling his determination. Their stories intertwined with his, offering solace, guidance, and strength. With every book he read, he felt himself growing, evolving into a person he was proud to be. With each stride, he was not just running, he was outrunning his past, sprinting towards a future he envisioned for himself. He wasn't just working for money, recognition, or status. He was working for himself, for the right to be seen, heard, and respected. He didn't know how far he would go, but he knew he would go far. With each keystroke, he was building not just a project, but a testament to his resilience. He was no longer the timid, insecure young man who had felt invisible. Now, driven by a newfound sense of purpose, he was crafting his future, brick by digital brick. His name was Alex. Alex had always felt different. With every second that passed, he felt his resolve hardening, preparing him for the battles he knew he'd face later in the day. In his hand, he held a worn-out copy of a self-improvement book, its pages filled with his underlined notes and dog-eared corners. Each word he read was a battle cry, a reminder of his journey from feeling invisible to becoming unstoppable. He walked with purpose, not just because he had to, but because he wanted to. He wanted the world to see him, to acknowledge him, because he now understood his worth. This was his ritual, his baptism of ice-cold water that solidified his commitment to his newfound purpose. It wasn't just about waking up early for Alex. It was about confronting his demons head-on, proving to himself that he was stronger than the whispers of defeat that echoed in his mind. Growing up, he had dreams that seemed to stretch as far as the horizon, but life had a way of dimming those aspirations. He felt misunderstood and seen, a ghost drifting through the halls of his own existence. Someone who went from feeling completely worthless to becoming unstoppable. Let me tell you their story. I was alone, he thought, letting out a shaky breath. And I felt like nothing. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and Alex continued to drift. He became a mere spectator in his own life, watching the world go by while he stood still, trapped in his own prison of solitude. The rain poured heavily outside, blurring the neon lights into a kaleidoscope of colors. I might be alone, he admitted to himself, the words echoing in the vast cavern of his solitude. His journey was arduous, his resolve tested every step of the way. But he pressed on, driven by an inner strength he never knew he possessed. But I am not weak. That realization was his North Star, guiding him out of the dense fog of his despair. It was the spark that ignited a fire within his soul, fueling his determination to rise above the ashes of his past. No one saw my pain. No one asked how I was doing. One day, though, something within him snapped. It was a realization that hit him like a rogue wave, catching him off guard and pulling him under. From that moment on, Alex was a changed man. The alarm clock blared its obnoxious tune, piercing through the silence of the early morning. Each step he took echoed the resolve in his heart. The harsh spray of the water jolted him awake, sending shivers down his spine. But Alex stood firm, his eyes fixed on the rising sun. As the first rays of sunlight began to paint the sky with hues of gold and crimson, Alex emerged from his home, his steps lighter, his shoulders straighter. He knew that being alone wasn't a weakness, but a blessing in disguise. It had stripped him bare, revealing the raw material of his strength. Hours melted away as Alex immersed himself in the world of words. In the labyrinth of literature, he found mentors in the authors whose words resonated with his soul. The sun began its slow descent, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple. This was his chance to prove himself, to show the world what he was capable of. Outside, the city lights twinkled like a million stars, but Alex's gaze was fixed on his work. As the night deepened, Alex made his way through the crowded streets, a contented smile playing on his lips. Now, as he walked with purpose, he was greeted by the soft glow of street lamps, each lamppost marking another milestone in his journey. With every step, he felt the satisfaction of a life well lived, a life that was no longer defined by isolation, but by purpose, growth, and hope. But it was in that confrontation that he discovered his true strength. As he stood there looking out over the city, he realized that his journey was far from over. The city lights twinkled below him, mirroring the stars that glittered in the vast expanse above. He was not the same person who had felt lost and broken.